Hidden within the depths of his heart, an icy chill slowly appeared and quickly spread throughout Han Li's body, rousing Han Li from his stupor. When Han Li became clear-headed, the first thing he felt was an immense pressure in his head, followed by waves of pain across his entire body. He felt indescribably weak as one would feel at the onset of a serious illness, and he was unable to open his heavy eyelids no matter how much effort he expended. Still feeling a bit dazed, Han Li managed to recall the events that occurred right before he passed out. Han Li was struggling for control over his body when an immediate sense of panic flashed through Han Li's mind, causing adrenaline to flood through him, sharpening his befuddled mind and allowing him to quickly assess the situation around him. "Yi!" he exclaimed in shock as he realized that his mind had not been taken over by Dr. Mo. True, he could barely move his eyelids, not to mention the rest of his body, but the waves of pain spreading throughout his body told him clearly that he had regained control over his own body and that Dr. Mo had failed in his plans. Why did Dr. Mo's plan fail? Did he do something wrong? Filled with surprise, Han Li was able to think of one plausible explanation for his current situation. Barely containing the excitement within his heart, Han Li patiently waited for his body to regain some of its energy before he tried once more to open his eyes. After a short but strenuous battle, he managed to crack open his eyelids to see what was going on around him. The first image he saw when he opened his mind was the sorry state Dr. Mo was in. His hair was all white, his face was thin, wrinkled, and haggard. It seemed like he was at least 10 years older than he was before his youthful transformation. With this appearance, it was impossible to imagine him any older. His features seemed to embody the meaning of the word old, and he was now simply a poor old man. In front of Han Li, Dr. Mo's eyes were wide open as he stared at Han Li with a look of unbridled terror. Han Li himself was equally shocked, and his muscles immediately tensed. All sense of weakness left his body as the only thought that rang out within him was to make the first move and gain the upper hand. Clearly learning from his previous lesson, Han Li was unwilling to once again fall under someone else's control. But afterwards, Han Li realized something strange. His opponent's face seemed to be frozen in fear and there was no sign of breathing from Dr. Mo. It became apparent that he was dead and may have been dead for quite a while now. Unwilling to let down his guard, Han Li continued to stare deeply, with eyebrows furrowed, at Dr. Mo's facial features in search of anything that might give him away. After a whole 30 minutes of careful scrutiny, Han Li was forced to admit that Dr. Mo was indeed dead, for he did not hold any resemblance to that of someone who was still alive. Hesitating, Han Li carefully crawled up to him and stretched out one hand to grasp Dr. Mo's wrist while his other hand was placed under his nose. In this position, he waited for a while, but there was still no reaction. It was only with this final affirmation of Dr. Mo's death that Han Li felt his heart settle and relax. The sense of oppression he had felt in his heart was finally discarded. Until now, Han Li had always carried some doubts within his mind as he did not believe his biggest enemy, the cunning and crafty Dr. Mo, would die so easily from an unknown cause of death. Han Li scratched his forehead, only to realize that the soul lock talisman, which had been fixed to his forehead, had disappeared without a trace. This made Han Li feel strange. He would later learn about talismans and sealing techniques, and only then would he realize what had happened. It seems that all the power in the yellow talisman had been used up and thus it had disintegrated into dust, so Han Li was unable to find it. The now relaxed Han Li decided to continue being cautious and started to scan the area around Dr. Mo to see if there were any traces of life. Han Li noticed that the candles were still lit, signaling to him that he had not been out for a long time. The jade pieces, on the other hand, had lost all their previous luster and seemed to have been degraded, unable to catch anybody's eyes. Shifting his attention towards the left side corner of the stone room, he focused on an object that had previously evaded Han Li's detection. Han Li was not a stranger to this object. This object was the invading green globe from his dream that had managed to escape from his grasp, but not before having 1/3 of its mass devoured by Han Li. At this time, it desperately tried to dig into the corner of the room, apparently afraid of Han Li and trying its very best to hide from his sight. Amused, Han Li looked at this scene with one hand stroking his chin. Then, he quickly stood up and strode over to the ball of light. Only when he was half an inch away from the ball of light did he stop and slowly open his mouth. "I think we both know each other. You should be Yu Zhetong. Am I correct?" The green light, which contained Yu Zhetong, started to tremble and flicker at the sound of Han Li calling its name, but after pausing for a moment it started to shine brightly again. You guessed correctly. It seems you truly are Dr. Mo's disciple. You are just like him, tough and hard to deal with, said the ball of light, accepting its fate. From its voice, Han Li could tell that it really was the young man whom Han Li heard conversing with Dr. Mo. It did not try to hide its identity and instead confirmed Han Li's thoughts. Now knowing what he was dealing with, Han Li asked, since you were one of the culprits trying to take my life and possess my body, shouldn't you provide me with an explanation? Han Li did not reveal any anger as he talked to the culprit, instead, he had a rather calm demeanor. Even so, Yu Zhetong, seeing Han Li's indifferent attitude, was at a loss regarding what to do, feeling a sense of dread within his heart. In the recent battle between their two souls, he experienced firsthand Han Li's might and even had a portion of his soul devoured, causing his internal qi to drop by half. The remaining half of his internal qi could only be used to perform minor incantations that had neither the power to kill Han Li nor the power to protect himself, allowing a sense of fear to ingrain itself within his heart. What do you want to know? He knew that Han Li had recently escaped from a life-threatening situation and therefore would not be emotionally stable. Although he may look calm and collected, who knows how he was truly feeling. In a sense, he was comparable to a volcano about to erupt, as no one is able to accurately predict a dormant volcano's destructive power. Caught, Yu Zhetong's best option for him was to comply with all of Han Li's demands without testing his patiences with riddles or trickery. The last thing he wanted was to anger Han Li and suffer from his rash actions. I want you to honestly tell me everything concerning what you are and exactly how you came to know Dr. Mo. Right now, the only resource I have in my disposal is time, so I will listen to all you have to say. As he spoke, Han Li seemed to be wearing a mask, his face hiding all emotional fluctuations from Yu Zhetong's wary perception. Kek. Speaking of which, I am also a victim. The moment he opened his mouth to speak, Yu Zhetong tried to get Han Li's sympathy, doing his best to downplay the relationship between him and Dr. Mo, even to the point of breaking all ties. However, his act was in vain. Han Li was not moved at all. Without much of an option, Yu Zhetong had no choice but to continue explaining. Originally, I was an immortal cultivator. Yu Zhetong honestly told Han Li about his history, explaining every details about the circumstances from how he got to know Dr. Mo to how he ended up in his current state. Of course, in his tale, he made himself out to be the victim in the story, pushing all responsibilities and negative connotations onto the head of the dead Dr. Mo. After all, dead men tell no tales. Han Li naturally would not completely believe what he had said. But comparing the story he just heard, alongside with Dr. Mo's words back when he was still alive, Han Li deduced that about 70 to 80% of the story he just heard was true. It was highly improbable but not totally impossible for the circumstances to occur as they had. After removing parts of the story that seemed inconceivable, Han Li already had a rough understanding of the truth. From what Han Li understood, regarding his past, Dr. Mo had no reason to lie to him. The stories he heard from Dr. Mo, that he got ambushed and decided to search for ways to regain his original powers and appearance, should be true. There was no need for Dr. Mo to lie to him about that. However, Han Li recalled that Dr. Mo told him earlier that he discovered a mysterious book that outlined a way to regain his vitality. After considering all that transpired, Han Li decided that the story was false, because it does not match with what Yu Zhetong had said. Ultimately, Dr. managed to regain his youth because of Yu Zhetong, yet, he was also cursed because of Yu Zhetong. Originally, Yu Zhetong was a member of a cultivation clan. He had managed to cultivate the eternal spring arts to the 7th level. It could be said that he had some expertise, but ultimately, because of his limited talent, he made no advancement in the eternal sprint arts and thus was unable to meet the requirements to enter the foundation establishment stage. Cultivators who were not at the foundation establishment stage could not be considered cultivators at all. At most, they could only be considered powerful mortals, halfway to the point of stepping into the realm of immortal cultivators. Because Yu Zhetong was unable to achieve a breakthrough, he decided to explore the secular world for enlightenment, hoping to make a breakthrough in his state of heart, overcoming the bottleneck that forbade him from reaching foundation establishment stage. Of course, he hoped that he would be able to come across rare precious herbs so that he could concoct spiritual pills to aid him in his cultivation. However, he knew that the chance was slim at best. After all, it was only a matter of luck. With high hopes and expectations in his head, the 20-year-old Yu Zhetong arrived at the place cultivators called the secular world. The captivating world out there was full of wondrous events and distractions, causing Yu Zhetong to be dazzled and lost in their splendor. His original state of mind could not be regarded as solidly stable. In less than a few years, it had already degraded. He became nothing more than an influential clan's honored guest and began to enjoy the world's luxurious splendors. As a result, his immortal's heart had gradually weakened. Regarding traitors of the clan, after a 100 years, disciples like Yu Zhetong would have their names formally removed from the clan registry. The act of doing so was equivalent to declaring that the traitorous disciples would have no more connections to the clan and would be considered immortal. Disciples like Yu Zhetong would never be able to return to the clan. Unless one of his direct descendants had an enormous potential to walk the path of an immortal cultivator, he would not be allowed to return. If this carried on, Yu Zhetong would have lost the chance to cultivate, but living a life of decadence and wallowing in riches would still be highly possible. This was an extremely common occurrence for cultivators who failed to break through to the stage of foundation establishment, so there was nothing to make a fuss of. One day, it was unknown whether the heavens were helping him or if Lady Luck decided to smile on him, but as Yu Zhetong was strolling the streets of the city, he decided to enter a spiritual pharmacy on a whim. To his surprise, he actually spotted a rarely seen and extremely beneficial spiritual herb there. The name of the spiritual herb was known as the blood spirit grass. For those who were not familiar with herbs, it was extremely common for them not to recognize this since the external appearance of this grass was about 95% similar to the blood sweat grass. Who knew that the ignorant shopkeeper would actually place the two grasses together? Yu Zhetong was naturally exalted as he saw the blood spirit grass. With this spiritual herb, it would greatly increase his chances of breaking through the bottleneck. Ingesting the spiritual herb was akin to fanning flames. The sparks in his immortal's heart gradually started to blaze again. Who would have known that just when he was about to purchase the herb, another immortal cultivator also entered the shop. Seeing such a beneficial spiritual herb in front of him, he fought with Yu Zhetong over the purchase of the spirit blood grass. Seeing this situation, the shop owner offered them a solution. The herb would be sold to the one who offered the highest bid. Eventually, Yu Zhetong managed to win the bidding war by a narrow margin. After winning, he hurriedly left the store. He knew that the other cultivator would not give up so easily. Yu Zhetong was in a panic, and decided that returning to his clan was the safest way to proceed. But halfway on the road, the other cultivator caught up to him and a huge battle began. The other cultivator was stronger than him and thus Yu Zhetong ended up suffering a miserable defeat. Yet, he was still unwilling to relinquish the spiritual herb. Gritting his teeth, Yu Zhetong decided to use his last resort. He took out his only remaining treasure bestowed on him by his clan, putting on a deceptively brave front by showing a fake intent to perish together with his opponent. This way, Yu Zhetong managed to scare the other cultivator away. Even though he had achieved victory, the current him was riddled with injuries. It was at this moment where he met Dr. Mo, who had also been trying to find a remedy for himself. With his lack of experience, Yu Zhetong did not know the saying that human hearts are tough to fathom, and he stupidly revealed the fact that he was carrying an extremely beneficial spiritual herb. Just like that, Yu Zhetong invited a calamity upon himself. He did not know that Dr. Mo was desperately searching for a cure for his own injuries. Now that he knew there might be an efficacious spiritual herb on Yu Zhetong's body which might have the chance to save him, he exhausted all his methods trying to obtain the herb from Yu Zhetong. However, how could Yu Zhetong agree? He too needed the miraculous effects of the herbs to recover from his injuries. The current him was no different from an ordinary mortal. Seeing that his efforts of negotiation was unsuccessful, hatred formed in his heart. Dr. Mo calmed himself and appeared to accept his fate with a sigh. He was cunning and could afford to wait for a good opportunity. Dr. Mo decided to poison Yu Zhetong to death. In normal circumstances, ordinary poisons would all be ineffective against Yu Zhetong. However, the poison Dr. Mo administered was an unusual poison with no antidote. Already suffering from heavy injuries, Yu Zhetong now had the potent poison to contend with. Struggling with every movement, he appeared to be on the verge of dying. It was at this moment that Dr. Mo revealed himself and walked swaggeringly towards Yu Zhetong. Only now did Yu Zhetong understand what had happened. There was no way he would allow Dr. Mo to succeed just like that. Even in such dire circumstances, he must find a way to persist longer. Under great anger, he had no choice but to utilize the blood-soul curse, transmuting all the blood essence and spiritual energy in his body into a blood curse, spitting it on Dr. Mo's face. After which, Yu Zhetong's soul swiftly departed his body. After his soul departed his body, only did Yu Zhetong realize that he had made a mistake. He had forgotten to prepare a soul-binding treasure, so there was no item that could temporarily house his soul. With no choice, he had to enter Dr. Mo's body. After all, souls without something to tether them would inevitably dissipate. As the blood curse splattered on Dr. Mo's face, he was terrified, but after he calmed down and realized that nothing strange is going to happen, he relaxed his guard and stopped thinking about it. Based on his rudimentary knowledge of medicinal pills, he searched Yu Zhetong's corpse and immediately consumed any pills he could find. As expected, pills from a immortal cultivator were unusually effective. After he consumed the pills, Dr. Mo's internal qi was restored. Dr. Mo laughed crazily, and took Yu Zhetong's belongings, including the eternal spring arts, which he could not understand. Before he left, Dr. Mo decided to make a comeback and gain revenge on all his enemies after his injuries recovered. Dr. Mo did not have many happy days. The mortality decimation curse revealed its deadly side effects, causing him to age at the rate of 1 year for every passing day. He was terrified at the rate he was aging and tried everything to find a way to control the abnormal effects of the curse, but there was little to no success. He knew that if this continued on, he would not live for much longer, as his body would begin to fail him and he would eventually die like any other old man. Yu Zhetong, on the other hand, was in even more pain. When his soul entered Dr. Mo's body, it was slowly but painfully being assimilated into Dr. Mo's soul. Assimilation, a passive event, would occur if one's soul remained in a foreign body for a prolonged period of time. Since one body can contain only one consciousness, the stronger soul would try to subdue the weaker soul, thus beginning the long process of assimilation. Yu Zhetong decided out of desperation to reveal everything he knew concerning why they wanted Han Li's body. He was reluctant to do so not because he was good at heart loyal to Dr. Mo, but rather because he was fearful of the cultivation world's 3 big inviolable rules. First, cultivators must not forcefully possess the bodies of normal mortals as they were unable to withstand the immense amount of stress, causing the body to ultimately burn out. Second, only those with greater magic power will be able to successfully overtake the body of a cultivator with weaker magic power and not suffer from any form of counterattack. The greater the disparity between the levels of power, the safer it would be for the one attempting the possession. Third, a cultivator is only able to perform body possession once in his entire life, no matter how powerful their magic power is. If they were to attempt to perform body possession a second time, their soul will perish without fail. Although the number of people who tried to break the 3 rules is unknown, the 3 big inviolable rules have never been broken. These 3 rules limited countless evil cultivators who tried to use the body possession technique and prevented them from creating calamity in the mortal world. The heavens frowned upon actions that go against heavens will because no matter what, the heavens would not allow cultivators to throw the world into chaos. If Dr. Mo had been a cultivator, Yu Zhetong would not be in his current predicament as he would have had a viable chance at possessing Dr. Mo's body, but since Dr. Mo was a normal mortal without a hint of spiritual qi, there was no way for Yu Zhetong to possess his body for fear that halfway through the possession, Dr. Mo's body would be unable to handle the stress and ultimately break down. Even if Yu Zhetong was able to find another body to possess, the process of assimilation was inevitable and he might fall under a more dire predicament as every time he leaves and enters a new body, he loses a bit of his spiritual qi, which will quickly be expended. When this happens, Yu Zhetong will no longer be able to enter and exit someone's body at will and may even be indefinitely stuck in someone's body and ultimately be assimilated. It is also important to note that without a body, he was unable to replenish his magic power through meditation, so every time he used magic power it was lost forever. At the same time, his magic power also leaked out at a slow but steady pace and even he didn't know how long his soul could maintain its current form. So unless Yu Zhetong found a cultivator capable of using small amounts of magic power and had a body capable of withstanding possession, he would not take any risks and leave his current body, which was that of Dr. Mo. Just when Dr. Mo's body was about breakdown because of the blood curse, the aftermath would leave Yu Zitong's soul without a body to lodge in. After the collapse of Dr. Mo's body under the blood curse, leaving him without a body to return to, and the fact that Han Li may consume his remaining life force, Yu Zitong decided to temporarily place aside his hatred and give Han Li anything he wanted, even going as far as betraying Dr. Mo, revealing how they met and their plans, along with the stakes and benefits involved, without holding anything back. When Dr. Mo first heard of Yu Zitong's plan for revitalizing his body, it made him express anger, but he quickly realized that this was a perfect opportunity and quickly pledged to achieve their goal, revealing him to be a man of dignity. First, Dr. Mo must follow Yu Zitong's instructions and control his consciousness so that it does not assimilate his soul. Yu Zitong also taught Dr. Mo a few secret techniques that allowed him to slow down the rate of aging he suffered from his curse while also temporarily allowing him to use magic power. Then Dr. Mo must find someone with strong spiritual roots who was also able to practice the eternal spring arts, teach him the incantation and then wait for when the time was right before Dr. Mo used his temporarily gained abilities to use magic power to forcefully take over the other person's body in order to start a new life. Dr. Mo's sincere desire to traverse the path of cultivation was ridiculed constantly by Yu Zitong since he knew firsthand how impossible it was for normal mortals to use magic power. Dr. Mo was merely a mortal cultivator of the mouth with no spiritual roots in his body. Cultivator of the mouth means he only talks about cultivating without actually doing it. After Dr. Mo succeeded in overtaking a body with spiritual roots and had sufficient time to rest, he would then proceed to help Yu Zitong find a suitable body to possess and then provide any aid to help Yu Zitong possess his new body. From the conditions above, it seems like Dr. Mo receives the most benefits from this deal, but that couldn't be helped since Yu Zitong was caught in a bad position with his remaining soul force under constant threat of assimilation. In the end, Yu Zitong was forced to accept this unfavorable agreement and take a bit of loss. However, it was not clear if he really was taking a loss. After all, the only person who knew the exact terms of the agreement was himself. At one point, Yu Zitong suggested that Dr. Mo should go back to his family and ask for help, but the rapidly aging man refused to even consider that option, much to Yu Zitong's constant annoyance. What came afterwards didn't warrant much discussion as Dr. Mo spent most of his time trying unsuccessfully to look for a suitable body and reluctantly entered the Seven Mysteries sect, where he accepted Han Li as a disciple and taught him the eternal spring arts. The rest that occurred was not worth mentioning as they were either mentioned by Dr. Mo himself or was experienced by Han Li himself. After Han Li finished hearing those words, he let out a long sigh as some of the confusions and questions within his heart were answered by Yu Zitong. Seeing how Yu Zitong did not continue, Han Li's face grew darker and he coldly said, "It seems you still haven't told me how Dr. Mo died." Yu Zitong hesitantly opened his mouth and said, "Is there else worth explaining? Dr. Mo underestimated your cultivation speed of the eternal spring arts and his magic power was not as strong as yours, so therefore he was unable to take over your body, resulting in his soul being devoured. So, the yellow ball of light that first entered my body was Dr. Mo and the second green ball of light was you," Han Li stated calmly, almost as if the invasion of his body had not been a big deal. "Well, about this, at that time I thought that both you and Dr. Mo were exhausted and I did not want to waste this opportunity and so I thought I might borrow your body for a bit," Yu Zitong replied awkwardly. "Hang. I'm afraid that's not the reason why you attacked. I think that you had it all planned out from the beginning. Yu Zitong, I bet that when you were first explained the process of body possession to Dr. Mo, you didn't have any good intentions and therefore didn't bother to mention that the success rate of body possession was directly correlated to the strength difference. Do you know what I think? I think that you had it all planned out from the beginning. You made Dr. Mo use the self-mutilating 7 soul-devouring technique against my 4th-level cultivation of the eternal spring arts, which are near equal in terms of power, so that we would both become exhausted to the point of perishing together. After the battle came to a draw, you would then step in and reap the benefits of Dr. Mo's painstaking work and ultimately take over my body. Did I guess correctly, Cultivator Yu?" Han Li calmly stated his assumptions in the time it takes for several breaths. After a long moment of silence, Yu Zitong let out a sigh expressing his dejection. Without refuting, he said, I originally wanted to give you empty praises, but now I sincerely mean it when I say that you are extraordinarily smart, even outshining your master Mo Juran, that cunning fox. You guessed correctly. All of this was planned out by me, but I never would have thought that your talent for cultivation was so high that you would train up to the 6th layer of the eternal spring arts, only one layer below me, in such a short period of time. Not only did you easily swallow Dr. Mo's soul, but my heavily depleted soul force was not even a match for you, and I even lost a large portion of my soul to you. Once finished, his tone suddenly turned prideful. Ha! That Mo Juran was only a normal mortal, yet he wanted to stand on equal footing with us cultivators. Was he even worthy? Moreover, he dared use such despicable means as to get rid of my cultivating body and still wanted to step onto the path of cultivation. He was simply daydreaming. The hatred Yu Zhetong had kept bottled in his heart for a long time finally revealed itself. But you are different, you were born with spiritual roots and intelligence above the norm. Staying in the secular world would be too much of a pity. If you are willing to help me find a new and suitable body, I am willing to act as your guide, introduce you to the elders of my clan, and accept you as my disciple. What do you think? Yu Zhetong was very confident he could sway Han Li, since he did not believe that there was anyone who could resist stepping onto the path of cultivators and the temptation of immortality. He thought back to how Dr. Mo hated him but still ended up working with him and even occasionally tried to get on his good side, believing this would make Yu Zhetong more submissive. Much to Yu Zhetong's disappointment, after Han Li heard his enticing promise, he did not reveal even a hint of excitement, his face remaining as impassive and unmoving as ever. As for the matter of cooperation, we can discuss that later. Right now, I still have one question that I hope you would provide me with a clear answer. Han Li said softly as he calmly stared at the ball of light. If I answer this question of yours, then you will be willing to cooperate with me. That depends on your answer and if it is to my satisfaction. Okay, ask away. Yu Zhetong promised immediately and demonstrated his understanding of the concept that one must learn how to yield under pressure. Han Li did not immediately answer, but instead raised his head up to the ceiling in a contemplative manner as if he were thinking deeply about how he should phrase the question. Seeing Han Li's solemn face, Yu Zhetong couldn't help but feel a sense of fear creep up within his heart as he himself wondered what kind of headache-inducing question Han Li would ask him. I want to know if there are any negative side effects from devouring Dr. Mo and a portion of your own soul, because I currently feel a pain in my head almost as if it's being filled to the point of exploding with information that I am unable to recognize, said Han Li, finally mentioning the one worry he had since he had woken up. After listening this question and realizing that Han Li was worried about such a small problem, Yu Zhetong immediately felt unease in his heart dissipate, and even his voice lightened up. Hee hee. So you were worried about this? Well, little brother, you worry too much. In fact, you don't need to put this matter at heart. If you really want to know, the information you feel stuffed into your brain will slowly disappear within a year or two, so you have absolutely nothing to worry about. So what you are saying is that the things I swallowed are absolutely useless and that I am completely unable to hold onto them? I don't trust you on this, Han Li said coldly as he glared at the Yu Zhetong with traces of suspicion evident on his face. Saying that you can't even hold onto a bit of it is not actually true, but what you can hold onto is indeed only a small portion of it, Yu Zhetong quickly added onto his explanation out of fear that Han Li would misunderstand something. For example, you will be unable to touch the included memories, experiences, and emotions, and even if you did absorb them, there is a high chance that you will instantly become mentally crippled, your personality will develop split versions of itself, your consciousness will collapse, and your brain will ultimately burst, leading to your death. You have to understand that the soul is the most precious thing a person can possess. How can it be so easily combined with other things? It is true that you can absorb someone else's soul and have it temporarily rest in your subconscious, but to make it your own is simply wishful thinking. Otherwise, if a simple body possession can allow you to absorb all of one's memories, experiences, qi techniques, then wouldn't that cause the whole world to fall into chaos? If things were that simple, then who would honestly practice cultivation along with going out and exploring the different realms of this world when they could obtain all this through simply possessing someone else's body? Once a soul has been consumed, the only thing that can be used is a little bit of the energy the devoured soul has left, which could then be used to bolster one's own reservoir of energy for a short amount of time. It's due to the fact that this types of energy escapes the fastest, staying within the body for only a few days before it dissipated along with the devoured soul. Once it's gone, you will be unable to use it. As Han Li continued to listen to Yu Zhetong's explanation, he slowly put down the last strand of doubt he carried within his heart because he could tell from Yu Zhetong's tone that he was not lying. After all, it became increasingly obvious that Yu Zhetong was seeking out a similar cooperation with Han Li similar to the one that he had with Mo Juran. He knew that Han Li was testing him, so he did not dare to lie. When Yu Zhetong finished the last sentence of his explanation, he saw Han Li nod his head and couldn't help but feel a sense of relief as he knew that Han Li believed him. At the same time that Yu Zhetong brightened up a bit, he asked hurriedly, "Little brother Han, it seems like you are satisfied with the answer I provided, so don't you think that now would be a good time to discuss our terms of cooperation? Of course, being able to work with a cultivator is my utmost pleasure." Han Li said in a sincere tone, flashing a big smile that revealed his white teeth that gleamed in the candlelight. "Really?" Yu Zhetong asked excitedly in disbelief as he did not even have to try to persuade Han Li, who agreed all by himself. "Of course," Han Li answered crisply. Then he pulled something out of his clothes and said to Yu Zhetong in a familiar tone, "Now that we are partners, you wouldn't mind doing a small test for me before we discuss any further, right?" "Test?" Yu Zhetong paused for a moment, before looking at the familiar-looking cylindrical object in Han Li's hand while a bad feeling crept back into his heart. "That correct? More specifically, a poison test." Han Li uttered these words as he lifted up the cylinder-shaped object before moving his thumb a little, which then caused some black liquid carrying a rancid smell to shoot out straight towards its target. "Ah!" Yu Zhetong emitted a sharp and painful scream as the black liquid covered the whole green globe of light. The green globe dimmed significantly, showing that the injury he had received was not light. You dare attack me, to poison me." Yu Zhetong screamed hoarsely, still in disbelief as he was unable to accept the event that just transpired. Han Li did not pay attention to Yu Zhetong's angry shouts and instead reached for the dagger located on his belt just above his abdomen. He then swiftly unsheathed it with a shua, revealing a shiny blade. The dagger was one of those rarely seen jade daggers, which had blades that were incomparably flexible. The dagger in question was as wide as a knuckle and about half a meter long. Han Li only obtained this double-edged dagger by paying large amounts of money in order to get the blacksmith to custom make it according to Han Li's specifications. Since Han Li did not specialize in weapons, he did not have an opportunity to bring out this dagger during the struggle with Dr. Mo, but it seemed like the time has come for him to use it. Previously, Han Li had kept this weapon hidden on his body and almost didn't have an opportunity to use it. His face darkened and his original smile disappeared by half the thought of almost not being able to use the dagger that he paid a large amount of money to obtain. He looked at the trembling ball of light with apathy and, without saying word, took a flying step forward as he savagely hacked at the green globe as if he were chopping a block of wood.